There's a strong feeling amongst our fan base, or at least an ever-increasing growing concern, that the Saka of old is gone, and what we have now is a Saka who is inevitably going to decline. The 23-24 Saka is no more. Well, guys, I don't know. I don't think I agree. I think that Saka is capable, and more than capable, of returning to his best, and that's what I'm going to try and talk to you about today. But before I do, I think we need to backtrack. So let's take it back and let's have a look at the injury itself. December 2024 was a rough time for us. We were sitting third in the table. We were 6 points behind Liverpool, and they had a game in hand. Liverpool were having a really good run under Arne Slot. Arsenal's season had been a little bit clunky. We'd had lots of unfortunate red cards. The injuries were already mounting up. I think Odegaard had been out. It was a mess. And to make things worse, Starboy, who was having a pretty good season at the time, 6 goals and 10 assists, on to break records he was, pulls up in December, hamstring injury. It's an injury where the hamstring pulled away from the bone. It required surgery. It required rehabilitation. It required a minimum of 3 months off at such an important time in the season. And even when he came back, you could see he wasn't quite where he wanted to be. And over the last 18 months, he hasn't been where he's needed to be. And of course, questions are going to be asked. We are absolutely right to ask those questions. Can Saka get there again? I believe he can. And when you look at the 25-26 season so far, obviously we can say that Saka is underperforming. You can also acknowledge that Arteta has been managing his minutes, where there's been 3 games in a week. Saka has started 2 of them, subbed on the other one, and he's being subbed a lot more because that's what the squad depth was for in the first place. But from a stylistic approach, I think there's been a lot of change this season as well that I think have affected Saka's numbers. A lot of the time, he's been paired with Yuri Timber. Now, other than being overplayed, which I think we can all agree with, Timber is an exceptional right back. However, his style does not match with Saka's. Timber is very defensive minded, which is something we love as Arsenal fans because, you know, we're all George Graham era kind of people, aren't we? But he's an inverter. He likes to come inwards, which means that Saka has to hold the wing. And that is not where Saka is most comfortable. Saka is the player who likes to come into the middle of the pitch and influence the game from there, whether it be linking up with the midfielders or whether it be putting a cross into the box, right? That is where Saka's strength is. His strength is not running down the wing and then trying to cut in at the bottom. That's what we bought Noni Madueke for. So what we've got a stylistic mashup. Saka has been at his best, and his numbers have been at their best when he's been partnered with Ben White on the wing and he's been able to interchange balls with Odegaard. Now, whether or not you think the future of Arsenal Football Club have Ben White and Odegaard in it or not, for the remainder of the season, if we are going to see the best of Saka, we might need to be seeing more of those two on the pitch, because it means that Saka can play his more natural game, which is to come in and influence the game from there. Those amazing whip shots that we haven't been seeing enough of, the link-up play with the midfielders, the 1-2s that take him into the box, all of those things come when he is moving inwards and he's got the overlap with Ben White on the outside of him. He can't do that with Timber because Timber likes to come in. So we're kind of stuck, really, in that respect. And actually, Timber has some of the highest numbers in our team for attacks on goal, and that's because he's in the space where we want Saka to be. And who are you choosing? We're going to choose Saka. So I think that, you know, that's something that that we need to look at going forward. And you can see some of the links that, you know, the right backs that Arsenal have been linked with. Those are the type of players that I think will be much better for Saka. You know, I'm not sold on Livramento because of his injury record, but he's the type of fullback that Saka would enjoy working with, because that fullback wants to run down the wing, which means Saka can come into the middle. So I think from a pairing perspective, we have to look at that going forward. Who's the best partner for Saka? A Ben White type fullback. Who's the best partner for a Madueke? Someone like Timber. So it's good that Arteta's got options, but he's got to be better at making those choices, I think. But before I move on, what do you think about that? Do you think that it's a Saka partnership issue, or do you just think it's a Saka issue? Hit me up in the comments. It would be really interesting to hear your thoughts, and don't forget to like. Let's talk about the eye test, though. It's quite clear that we're not seeing Saka move as fluidly as we're used to seeing him, and the Saka that we used to enjoy watching, where he'd leave people on their backsides and he'd just leave them for dust, right? There's clearly an issue with Saka's pace right now. And who knows, he might never get that back. These type of injuries, although the initial recovery and getting back to playing can between 3 and 6 months, full recovery can be much longer than that. So we might not see the Saka that we're looking for, or potentially ever again, or at least for another 6 months. So this is a long-standing injury with long-term implications for Saka and for us as fans. And we might have to mourn that. We might have to mourn that the Saka we loved is not doing that anymore. And that's awful, right? But sorry. And then, but let's try and compare the numbers a little bit. Now, I know that some people aren't really interested in looking at the numbers because they can just look at the player, but I think you have to do a bit of both here. Like, you can't just choose, well, I'm looking at the way he looks and I don't like the way he looks. You can't just dismiss that with the numbers as well, and vice versa. In the 23-24 season, we saw the best form of Saka, the best version of Saka that we've seen, 23 goals and 9 assists in the Premier League alone. And then in the 24-25 season, where he got injured, he had 6 goals and 10 assists up to the point. He had 6 goals and 10 assists. And don't forget that he had 3 months out of that season as well. And when he got injured in December, he was already on for a standout season. Like, he was already on to be potentially breaking assist records. And that didn't happen because he got injured. Fast forward now, we're in the 25-26 season, 6 goals and 4 assists. So yes, it's clearly slowed down, but he still has time in the remaining 7 or 8 fixtures to be able to add to that tally. And if he does add to that tally in any way that is a marked difference to what we've been seeing before, Arsenal probably win the Premier League. Now, I believe Arsenal will win the Premier League, but I want Saka to be instrumental in that running as well, because I'm a Saka fan. Just like you guys, you want to see Saka do well. There is not an Arsenal fan that I know, even the ones that are disgruntled, that don't want to see Saka do well. They're upset that Saka isn't where he should be. They recognise that it's not necessarily his fault that he is where he is, and they want to see him be successful. If Saka has any level of success over the next 6, 7, 8 games, Arsenal win the Premier League, right? And so we want to see those numbers be added to. And to be fair, there is evidence to suggest that his numbers should be better. And again, not always necessarily his fault. He's 5th in the Premier League for chances created with 52, and he's bearing in mind that he's meant to be, just a dead ball merchant now, and we only score from corners. 44 of those are from open play. So Saka is still having an influence on the game, even when he's been holding line for most of the season. With Ben White back in the team, you think he's going to play more now. With Odegaard inevitably going to have to play, whether you like him or not. He's going to have to play. And with him playing, you've got to think that that's going to create the space that Saka loves. And it's going to create the interactions that Saka loves. We're going to see more of Saka on the ball coming in the way we want him to come into. He's got a good centre of gravity. He's good at holding the ball. So we're going to see more of Saka as he comes into the danger areas. And I think that's exciting. And I think that's promising, and I think that's something we should be getting behind before it's too late. And actually, to add to that, and where people clearly haven't capitalised on the opportunities that he's created, he's 6th in the expected assist column for this season. Now, bearing in mind that he hasn't played all of the games and he's been subbed a lot and all the other things, they're pretty good numbers too. So in the final 6, 7 games, I think there's something to rally behind there. That something promising can happen, and it will take us to our first Premier League title in the 23 years. I know that it's not perfect, but I do think that there is something that we can be positive about for the rest of the season. Accountability. Arteta does need to take accountability on this. He played him and played him and played him in his early career, right? To the point where he's ended up with this injury. I do think there's an element of he's damned if he did and damned if he didn't, because if he overplayed him, he gets injured like he did. And if he doesn't play him, people are going to question him, why isn't he playing? He's a superstar. And I think that there is a chance that it could be a little bit too, with the way that he's been managing Saka's minutes, there could be a debate to be had that maybe it's a little too late, too little too late. But then we can't have our cake and eat it. It works both ways. He's either overplayed and we moan about him being overplayed, or he's underplayed and we moan about him being underplayed. And I do think that perhaps that there is an element of that with some of our younger players right now. There's a lot of questions about who should be playing and where they should be playing. And I'm for those arguments and I'm for those debates because I think they're important. But I also think that, some of these players are still under 20 and I don't want them to end up like Saka, because Saka is amazing and we might not see final form Saka now because of what's happened. So for me, I believe that there is more to come from Saka. I believe that he can come back. I believe that the Star Boy can become the North Star of the North Bank again and get us over the line and take us to a Premier League title. I would love to know what you think, because I know there are going to be some people who completely disagree with me, and that's fair. But there will be people who agree with me, but maybe have some slightly differing opinions as well. So please hit me up in the comments, because I would love to read them and debate you. That would be amazing. Other than that, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Up the Gunners.